Hello, everyone. Hello. So we're going to start with talking a bit about environmental law and the programs on offer, and then I'll hand over to Salona to talk about human rights law. I'm Melanie Mokot. I'm an associate professor in the Institute of Marine and Environmental Law, and you should be able to see my picture on the left-hand side of your screen at the moment. I work at the Institute of Marine and Environmental Law with Professor Sandy Patterson, who's pictured in the middle, and Dr. Denning Matuge. And together we run institutes, postgraduate programs. And so we're very interested to hear from you. And if you're interested in getting involved in one of these programs or enrolling for one of these programs, welcome your questions. So we were asked to give you a brief background of what our programs are about. So humans are fundamentally changing the Earth system, and to a point where we're reaching a stage of ecological collapse that's having huge effects on humanity. Because of course humans depend on a functioning Earth system. And so IML's programs, the Institute of Marine and Environmental Laws programs, are about understanding the laws in depth and in a critical manner that either contribute to this crisis or help address it. And so we look at environmental law's role in advancing the exploitation and destruction of the earth, and also environmental law's role as a counterweight to the destruction of the Earth systems and its impacts on humanity. So that's really what we focus on. Why do these programs matter? Well, if we have a look here at what we analyze, so our various modules look at natural resources law, the pollution, look at also the marine environment and land uses and all of the laws governing those different areas. What we see in the world at the moment is this kind of we see this sucking up of natural resources, right? So as they are called in the law. And we also see this extraction of labors, this dehumanizing approach of exploiting human beings, typically from the global south. And then we see the trade laws work to monetize all of that. And the end result, of course, is consumer products, which generally ultimately become waste, and pollution and emissions that are destroying the atmosphere and the world around us. So at the top of all of that, we see this person representing the neoliberal capitalist order that is driving all of that destruction, exploitation, and abuse, and then the end results of it all. So it matters, environmental law and the different courses that we study matter precisely because if we don't learn about how the law is driving all of this, we can't change them. We can't think about ways to revolutionize this picture that we see on screen. So that's why it's important, I think, from my point of view, to study a course in environmental law, or a program in environmental law. Then some of the potential careers I've highlighted for you here. There are a whole range of social and environmental justice careers that you can explore with this program. So it's everything from work at NGOs like Section 27 and the Centre for Environmental Rights, so that's lawyering, to more advocacy and research roles at places like the Green Connection and Greenpeace. And then there's like more bespoke practices that are in a niche of environmental law. Environmental law is one of the few areas where the firms that specialize want you to have a master's. So many firms in many areas of law are happy with you just to have the LLB, but the environmental law niche firms will specifically say we want people to have their masters in environmental law. And of course, UCT's program is very well respected because of the range of expertise that the different colleagues in IML have to offer. So we offer everything from expertise at a very deep level on marine issues, the law of the sea, land use issues, that's Sandy Patterson's area, and then issues of justice and climate law, which is really my area of focus. And what do our programs look like? Very briefly. So we have two programs, one in environmental law and one in marine and environmental law. And they are structured as follows. There's a compulsory module in the environmental law program, principles of environmental law. That's done in the first semester, as well as the elective land use planning that's also offered in the first semester. Then in the second semester, there are two electives, natural resources law, or rather three electives, natural resources law, pollution law, and international environmental. If you're doing the program full-time, you would have to do 2 modules in the first semester and 2 in the second. If you're doing part-time, you would do 1 in the first semester and 1 in the second semester over each of your 2 years. The program in marine and environmental law importantly includes international law of the sea as a compulsory module, as well as international environmental law as a compulsory module. Law of the sea is offered in the first semester. This is wrong, I apologize. It's not going to be offered in a block. It'll be weekly classes. International environmental law is offered in a block. All the other courses are offered in blocks. The blocks are very demanding. That's something you should know going into it if you do apply for this. There's also work to do in between the blocks, reading, assignments, and so on. So the program is offered at a high standard, but certainly very rewarding in terms of what students get out of it. And then in the marine and environmental law program, you have to choose one of these 4 options as an elective, or rather 2 of these 4 options as an elective. So 2 of principles, land use planning, natural resources law, and pollution. And then, as I've said, depending on whether you do the courses or the programs part-time or full-time, will require a lot more of you if you're doing them full-time. You would do 2 courses per semester. If you choose to do a professional master's, you would do 2 research tasks per semester. And an alternative to doing a professional master's is doing a minor dissertation, which is 1 big project instead of lots of smaller projects, instead of 4 smaller projects. Then part-time is the same, just halved and then spread over 2 years. And then just to conclude with a call for action, is again just to remind you of why all of these courses are important. So if you'd like to learn more about the courses, the details are spelled out on IML's website. But here you have the sun asking a person, revolution or apocalypse, and person saying, I thought we had more time to choose. And really this person for me represents people at your stage of life and career, where there's this idea that, we have until 2050 to figure all of this out. But of course, if we're not taking the action we need to take now, and reforming the laws in the ways they need to be reformed now, 2050 is going to be very different to the world as we know it today. And so here we have a bird, part of nature, saying you don't, and of course reacting to the reality of bees and plants dying because of the way in which humanity is destroying the earth. So that's all I had to say to you, and I think there's some time for questions before we move on to sort of. Thanks. Yeah, so if you're online, you can send either raise your hand or send questions by chat. Any questions from the room? Yeah.
In the writing saying that for the public masters,
Just so people online can. Thanks.
yeah, so for the public law masters, is there environmental law as a elective course you can take under that?
So the question was whether if you do the public law masters, you could choose any of these courses. So you would be able to choose, depending on how you structure your masters, you would be able to choose like one or more of these to make up your public law masters. So it wouldn't be an environmental law course, it would be one or more of natural resources, pollution, international environment, etc.
There's one question online. The question is, are classes going to be online also? I'm based in Gauteng.
These are the same. So all of the courses, I believe, at UCT are based on students being present physically at the universities. One of the reasons why we structure these programs as mainly in blocks is so that students can schedule and come down just for the block weeks of learning and do the rest of the course via correspondence. So you would need to, per course, allocate 2 weeks that you can take off work if you do the courses part-time, so 2 weeks per semester, per course per semester. And if you did it full-time, you would be needing to take off 4 weeks, which is really, if you are in Gauteng, it's a big ask. To come for 4 weeks if you're working, and also not necessarily realistic to do the program full time if you have another job. I think that's not realistic. What are the entry requirements for these programs? So entry requirements are standard really across the board, and I think they've advertised in the yearbook. We of course have limited spaces, so we assess applications on their own merits. But there are some minimums, I think, of a GPA of 65. Yeah, so a minimum GPA of 65. And then we of course evaluate people's cover letter, CVs, their academic record. Yeah, so we look at each application holistically, but there is that minimum requirement. Next, I saw your hand was.
Thank you, Prof. It's just, I just want to ask the day-to-day for the professional masters. Do we still attend classes, or could you maybe just speak a bit about that, please?
Sure. So this again would apply for various programs. The only difference between the professional masters and the masters by coursework and dissertation is the assessment. So the assessment for the professional masters is that you do a task linked to each of your courses that's up to 5,000 words, and the question is set for you by your lecturer. So you would do 4 5,000 word tasks that have been set for you. You're given a question, and those are pass-fail. There is no supplementary exam, no second opportunity to submit, and if you submit late, it's like you didn't attend your exam. So that's the professional masters. So again, if you do 4 courses in a year, you would have 4 professional masters tasks to submit, and you would submit those in addition to your assignments and in addition to your exams for your different courses. And if you miss any of those, it's like you failed an exam, you would have to re-enroll for your task the following year. Then if you do the coursework option with a minor dissertation, then you do 1 dissertation as opposed to 4 tasks. You decide the question in discussion with your supervisor. And you have to find the supervisor, and that can be a difficult and time-consuming process. But you then do 1 piece of work that I think is 25,000 words. And you get evaluated on that when you have submitted it to a standard that meets your supervisor's requirements, and they are willing to send it into the world for external examination. And so it's a very different process of assessment. The one I would say is more onerous in terms of the professional research task masters is more onerous in terms of constant outputs that you pass or fail on, and the other is more onerous in terms of you are driving the intellectual project. You determine the research question, and you then have to do the research independently to produce a credible dissertation at the end of the day. They are both very rewarding. They're both wonderful learning opportunities. So it's really about knowing yourself and which suits your personality better at this stage of your life. Lucy, does that answer your question as well? Yeah, okay, great. So just for example, this year in international environmental law, the students are writing their research task on whether or not we should have a global plastics treaty. What would be a good global plastics treaty? Like, what would you want to see in that treaty? And like, why it matters to have one, like from a human rights point of view, why is it important to govern plastics throughout their life cycle at the global level? So that's one example of a task that the master students in these programs have been set. Whereas one of my minor dissertation students is writing on whether the law of delict can be used to sue polluters for climate change harms. So she came up with that question herself, and she's now analyzing the law of delict and how it would need to reform to be effective in a claim against a polluter, and what sort of evidence you would need to establish causation, etc. So she's now doing that independently. But both are really fascinating areas within the broader field of environmental. Any other questions? Oh, Eddie again. Sorry, go ahead.
In terms of the minor dissertation, so would that just be a matter of approaching someone in the institute with like a potential research question and having them see if it's viable or someone can accommodate it?
Yeah, so Kelly's asking, like, how do you get a supervisor? So essentially someone has to agree to be your supervisor, and that depends on 2 things. It depends on expertise and capacity. So you need to find across the board, whatever program you ultimately decide, you need to find someone who has both the skills related to your question, the knowledge, and then also the time, because some of us already have many students and then we can't take on additional people. So it's good to get in early if you do think you want to do the dissertation approach. And then hectic. And also, yeah, to have done some provisional research yourself, so to have an idea of what it is you want to write about, what question you want to answer. But no, don't be sorry. I think that that's completely fair comment. This doing a master's is hectic. It's definitely a hectic endeavor, and it's not something one should do lightly, whether you do the task option or the dissertation option. It's a huge commitment of time, and it's also one of these things where what you put in is what you will get out of it. Yes.
Can you just explain a little bit more about how the blocks work? Like, what is a block? I know you said
Yes.
2 weeks for a course.
Yes. So the blocks depend on the course and the lecturer, but I can tell you about the blocks for environmental laws programs. So essentially, share again. So for example, with environmental law, you'd be taking principles of environmental law and land use planning if you're doing the full-time program. What that would look like then is that you would do a week of lectures introducing you to the materials for the first part of the course during February. And then the following week in February, we would do a week of lectures on land use planning law, again, introducing you to the materials. That week is both of those weeks, very intensive. Sandy, who teaches those two, has tremendous stamina, and he can keep you in the class from 9 until 5 through the course materials, and it's very intensive. Of course, lots of learning, lots of discussion, and very rewarding. Then you go up and you go and do reading on your own and exercises on your own at home. And you work on your assignments and your task if you're doing the professional master's option. And then you come back in May, and you do 2 more weeks where you consolidate the knowledge that you've built up on your own and cover further content in class, again over 2 weeks on those 2 courses. So a week each per course. So again, it's 8 or 9 to 5 in the classroom every day for those weeks, those 2 weeks. In the courses that I teach, so in pollution law and natural resources law, and international environmental law, we also have those weeks, but we try to use only 4 days of the week. And we try to do 1 day go on a trip. So this year for natural resources law, we went to Kirstenbosch and we visited the South African National Biodiversity Institute, and then we went to the gardens. And in pollution law, we went to the Philippine Horticultural Association food and farming campaign, and we learned about composting and waste management from the campaign. So sometimes Sandy does that too, and sometimes we do other things in other courses, but those are the examples from this year. And it's really about what is viable within the time that we have. So it's like a heavy time in the classroom. I can tell you that. It's like, again, the choice, it's like, I don't know which is the better of the two. If it's better to go weekly for 3 hours over a whole semester, or 1 week intensive, once in the beginning of the semester and once later on. I don't know. Both are hectic, right? So it's just, again, what works for you. The reason we chose blocks is because again, it means people can take a week off work, potentially come for the block and still do the program, even if they do live somewhere else in the country or indeed in another country. So this year's class, incredibly diverse. We have students from Sudan, Uganda, Namibia, Germany, and of course, all different parts of South Africa and Kenya. So really, really wonderful, exciting, diverse group of people. Makes for wonderful class discussions and exercises. And so I find that the blocks, you actually get to know people quite nicely because you spend so much time together. So that's like a positive. You build a bit of an academic community. So in the second semester, the blocks run along the following lines. So you have a block of teaching for natural resources law, a week in July, and then a week in August of pollution law, and a week in August of international environmental law, and then you go up and you learn on your own, and then you have blocks in October, so 3 weeks in October those courses run. And then, so end of October is when exams start, and so that's when around that time your research tasks are due, and then you write a take-home exam for all of these courses, at least open book opportunities to look at your materials while you answer the questions. It's a 9-hour exam, so it's quite, again, hectic. But pollution law this year, I didn't have any failures. Everyone who wrote the exam passed. Other courses we did have failures, but the goal is to make it possible to pass if you put in the work. Okay, any other last questions? 9 hours, yes, 9 hours. So you still at home though, so we give you lots of prep guidance on how to do it. It's very, you have to take the day off, obviously, but it's very manageable.
You're actually writing the detailed
Yes,
sections.
yes. So you're drawing on your materials. You start at 8, you submit at 5, and it's like if any of you practiced or worked a full day, you know, you're writing, you're reading, you're writing, and it's all stuff you've already learned, right? So it's things that you are prepped to answer. Great. Any last questions? Well, thank you so much for your attention. I really look. Oh, I see there's someone else. Okay, go ahead.
Basically, I wanted to find out roughly how much or the cost attachment of the environmental law course. Roughly.
So it's for the program. I think it's around 100,000.
Okay.
So
Sure,
divide that across. I think that's sort of fairly standard for all the programs.
Sure.
Of course, I'm not a finance person. I'm the
No.
environmental law person, so don't quote me on that, but more or less, that 100,000 is then divided across the 4 courses and the research tasks or the dissertation. Okay, great. Great, over to Simona. Thanks so much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing some of you in the program. Sorry, yes,
Thanks, everyone. We just putting the Salona's Human Rights Law program up.
It is to say hello to everyone in the room. I am always more comfortable standing up, but so tempted with the chair here to sit down again. So just to say hello to those of you in the room physically and virtually. It's so nice to see all these spaces and also to see the names up on the screen, and the interest in our programs. And so just to introduce myself, my name is Salona Lakshman. I am the program convener of the Human Rights postgrad program in the faculty. I haven't had the chance to teach any of the LLBs in the room today, so I hope you are keen to take a program, a human rights program next year. So just a few, I'm not sure if I should start with, we'll get to questions at the end. Let me cover some of the sort of boring stuff. I do have to sit down. Okay, so why study human rights at UCT? So there are many reasons. We are very lucky in this faculty that we have experts in the field teaching on a variety of courses, and I'll go through that with you in a minute. We have a very diverse range of courses on offer. Of course, those of you who are not based in South Africa might be keen to come to South Africa. Cape Town is, of course, a wonderful place to be. Whether you choose to study in my program or Melanie's or anyone else's, we have a wide range of courses on offer. This is just a snapshot. So we've got Introduction to Human Rights, Children's Rights. We have programs on criminal law and human rights, fantastic course on refugee rights, protection of women's rights, human rights and culture, or religion. So we have courses which cover contemporary human rights issues. And so there is absolutely something on offer for everyone. The LLM and MPhil programs that we offer are quite highly regarded, and we attract students from across the continent, as well as from the global north. In our classes, because of the diversity in the classroom, you are exposed to networks from, students from other countries. You're also taught by activists at times, those in practice litigators, and academic experts in the field. So you get to meet a range of different people. It could be a stepping stone to a career opportunity. And we certainly try to ensure that our students have maximum exposure to networks. Let's go to that. And as much as we offer a qualification which is global in every sense, it's based in international human rights law. We definitely approach our courses from a global South and an African perspective. So you're sure to engage with issues from a very critical African perspective, dealing with issues which are relevant to the South African and African context. So I know this might not be, I hope it's clear enough to those of you who are online. Those of you in the room, maybe not so much, sadly. So this is just a screenshot from our handbook, and I'll talk us through it just so that we can all understand. So the way this program is offered, we offer it in terms of an LLM or an MPhil, and I'll talk about the differences in a moment. Unlike other programs offered in the faculty, the human rights program does not have a professional master's option. So you have to complete 4 courses and a minor dissertation. That's the way the qualification is set up. So you're going to take 4 courses and a minor dissertation. There's a wide range of courses on offer. As I spoke earlier about international rights of the child, international protection of human rights, international protection of refugee rights, human rights, legal pluralism, litigating the South African Bill of Rights, punishment and human rights, and a wide range of other courses as well, victims and victimology, etc. So we encourage students to take 2 courses in the first semester and 2 in the second semester. And during that time, if you're completing the LLM or M full time, it's a year. So you have to be registered for the minor dissertation as well. So it is quite onerous. It means Melanie's already spoken to the minor dissertation and how, very much the ball is in the student's court. So we expect you to have an idea of your research area, your research topic, to approach a supervisor, of course, provide mentorship in that respect. So we meet with students, check in with you over the course of the semester, the first semester, to make sure you have approached a supervisor, you have a plan. So we don't want anyone to be left behind. But it does mean that you have to take the initiative to make sure that at least by the end of the year, you have a draft of your minor dissertation. If not, you have submitted it already for examination. So it is quite onerous, it can be quite, it's hard work. I think Melanie is quite right to point that out. It's not it's wonderful when you're at master's and MPhil level to choose what you get to study. I think that's the most wonderful part about doing the master's. You get to decide, and that's wonderful. But that doesn't mean that it's not hard work. So you have to commit to it. It's important. Of course, you can take this degree part-time, and there are options for that as well. Okay, so degree requirements. So as I said, completion of 4 courses and a minor dissertation for the MPhil and the LLM. So the MPhil is an option that we provide for students doing the studying in the human rights program who do not have an LLB degree. And the understanding is that human rights are interdisciplinary in nature. And so students with an honors degree, at least, are able to apply for the MPhil program. And all of that information is in the handbook, so you can have a look at pages 86 and 87 of the handbook. Of course, for the LLM, you must have an LLB. And as Melanie previously spoke about the GPA requirements, we accept students on a competitive basis, and so it is important that you put your best foot forward in your application. And we also look at work experience as well. If you have some work experience, that would be something to put in. But we certainly offer very engaging masters and program in the faculty in human rights. And I'd love to see as many of you apply. I'd love to see you in the classroom next year. And I hope all this talk about hard work and hecticness has not acted as a deterrent, but it is good that you know that upfront. So yeah, so that's all from my end.
Salona does also offer muffins at least once in the semester.
Yeah.
So I know I've benefited from a muffin.
Yes, food is a very important part of my teaching pedagogy.
And in the IELTS programs, we have a little party at the end of each course.
Yeah. Okay. Blueberry muffins.
Yes, both of the first to go.
Actually, the chocolate muffins are
Oh,
first.
true.
Yeah.
Banana always last.
Yeah. Anyone in the room? Yes.
So what do the job opportunities or the career options look like? Is there opportunities like maybe getting to work with organizations like UN?
Yeah.
That's what I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past, we've had students who have been able to complete internships at different UN organs. We've had students working at the EU, European Union as well, completing internship opportunities. We've had students work at the African Union. I've had students in the past who from Botswana who've been able to go back and work in Parliament in Botswana. So they are, you know, from those global and state level ranks, they are those job options, job opportunities. I've had students who have worked at the International Court of Justice, doing research work. Of course, there are many NGO opportunities after getting a human rights LLM or info or LLM. So there are various international and South African NGOs, those organizations doing important litigation work, in addition to those doing important advocacy work. Yeah, so there are many opportunities, and of course, there's opportunity in academia as well. Are there international exchange opportunities? So there is a faculty exchange program. However, that's not part of the LLM in human rights program. I think if you are interested in exchange opportunities, it might be best for you to contact our Director of Internationalization because she handles the exchange opportunities. It's Professor Fatima Khan. Maybe Gabby, would you provide information on that?
Can do.
Okay.
If anyone online is looking for further information and just want an easy email address, you can email lawcares, LAWCARES, lawcares @uct.ac.za, and you will get a response. And obviously anyone in the room as well. But you can so just email your professor.
Across the programs at CELS, which is the School for Advanced Legal Studies at UCT, there are exchange opportunities, and those are advertised on the CELS website when they come up. We have relationships with a bunch of universities, and if there's a particular program or course or whatever it is, those are advertised there. They do often require funding, so you often have to apply for both funding and exchange opportunities.
We do applications close. So applications close at the end of September. End of September. Applications close at the end of September. Yes.
I just wanted to find out what sets this degree apart from specializing in constitutional law and also talking to rights. So, like, what are the differences, similarities?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So in the human rights program, we focus on international human rights systems. So we look at the UN system, look at the UN charter-based system and the UN treaty-based system. We look at the African Union system for the protection of human rights and other regional human rights systems. And then we, in some courses, then bring it back to the South African system or not. Some courses are purely looking at the international human rights systems, and so that's how it differs. So it's unique in that sense. In that sense.
Thank you.
We have the opportunity to work at the Center for Law and Society or the UCT Refugee Clinic. There are opportunities to work at CLS as well as the UCT Refugee Clinic, and it's certainly on a unless it's a paid internship opportunity or research opportunity, which does come up on an ad hoc basis. There are most certainly volunteer opportunities to work at both CLS and the UCT Refugee Clinic. Okay, great. Any other questions? Comments? Yes.
Just a quick one. Why would you recommend, say, pursuing a master's in further education as opposed to like going straight into trying to work at like say legal resource center or legal aid or something?
Yeah.
Like what's the difference between getting that academic experience versus the practical experience that like yeah.
Yeah, I think studying further gives you an opportunity to delve deeper into aspects that you might not get to do when you are in practice, even working at a human rights based firm. I think it gives you that opportunity to get to study a variety of different human rights issues, to get the theoretical understanding, and in some courses even a practical understanding. And so, I mean, of course, nothing can truly beat hands-on practical experience. I'm not saying that is exceptionally valuable, and that's but what studying does is giving you a chance to understand it on a deeper level. So that when you are in practice, you get to see how all these different things fit together in ways that you might not have if you just went straight in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Another thing to keep in mind is that it's very competitive to get work in practice, especially at these places like the Legal Resources Center. And so what you can do during your master's is really set yourself apart. And you can do that in a number of ways that go beyond what happens in the classroom. So for example, this year, there was an internship at Protect the West Coast, open to master's students, and one of my students applied and was awarded that internship, which is a paid internship. He's now been developing a tool for public participation in environmental matters concerning communities in the West Coast, so Fisher people. And so gaining incredible experience for his CV while he's doing his master's, and that experience also supports what he's doing in his master's. He's presenting on that work at a national conference in September, and will get exposure to a whole bunch of professionals and researchers and at the conference by doing that. So having gotten that experience during his one-year master's puts him so far ahead of his peers when he applies now versus applying with an LLB end of last year. So it's a way, again, it depends how you use it and what you do during the master's, but it's a way to set yourself apart. We at the Center for Environmental Rights present a lecture during one of the blocks, and one of the students approached the attorney and got a week-long vacation work experience as a result of that. So it's like networking, leveraging, can really like build your CV in ways that will ultimately get you a better job after your master's if you do it right.
Thank you.
Okay, I see. I saw Noni had a hand raised. Just checking if you're still there.
Hi, I am. Thank you for that. I wanted to, sorry, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay.
I wanted to quickly check if for example, I do a professional master's, but I at a later stage want to get into academia. Would that still, I don't know, would that still be the appropriate route to take or sorry?
Yeah, just checking. Now there's an echo. Okay. So Nolini, is it a professional master's option on the human rights program? But from my understanding, in other programs in the faculty in which a professional master's um, the option is provided, it is not it is not a bar to, for instance, completing registering for a PhD. So we have had students have completed a professional master's and still, have, are able to apply to do a PhD. So it's certainly not an academic bar in any way.
Yeah, so we say that subject to what certain universities require. So we can't say that universally, every university will be happy with the 5 tasks as opposed to a bigger dissertation. But UCT certainly doesn't have an objection to accepting professional master students into the PhD, and we know that students elsewhere in the world and in the country have been accepted.
Okay, thank you.
Can I chip in with a little bit of information on funding for postgrad? So I'm just going to share this verbally. There are quite a few places to look for funding for postgrad, and I've got a couple of tips about doing that. The places are firstly the National Research Foundation, the NRF. They did not used to fund coursework masters or postgrad, but they do now. But for next year, the deadline for submission has already passed. So if anyone's looking at applying for next year, the National Research Foundation is not an option. You have to apply through UCT and they close applications. I think this year it was around the 5th of July. It was extended slightly, but so it's a very early deadline and it can often throw people. The application closing for the postgrad programs is only the end of September, but for that scholarship or that possible funding, it's usually mid-year. The second place is the faculty. We run quite an extensive postgrad scholarship program. The applications are usually called for at the end of the year. And if there's funding left over, there's another call. I think there's a call out at the moment that is still for this year. But it's very rare to be able to apply for funding in the year of study. So don't bank on that. Do your research up front, find whatever opportunities you can, apply for as many opportunities as you are eligible for. Don't exclude yourself, but also don't apply for things you're obviously not eligible for. The faculty's scholarship programs are all donor funded, either sort of historical funding that's been endowed or we continuously fundraising for scholarships. So we really are kind of focusing quite a lot now on postgrad to ensure that they're just increasing numbers of opportunities available to our postgrad students or those who are interested. The third place is the university's postgraduate funding office, absolutely critical resource. All of their scholarships are listed in UCT's handbook number 14. So have a look in there. You are able to make an in-person or online appointment with them to tell them what you're looking for and to ask for advice and guidance. They also run a great profile on X, and if you follow them at UCT Postgrads, I know people aren't that active on X anymore, but UCT Postgrads is, so follow for updates and info. It's a reason to be on X if you're on already. And then just very specifically, I wanted to say that we have, I think we're in the second year now, so next year will be our third year of a fantastic scholarship program in marine and environmental law. and environmental law. We offer 3 a year. It's very competitive. It's on a call for application basis. That will go out in October. So normally, yeah, we usually try as far as possible to make decisions and inform people well before registration, so that you entering, if you're making a decision to study, you're doing it as far as possible, certainly with the environmental law scholarship, knowing if you've got the funding or not. So that's, we're hoping to keep that going and to hopefully be able to make more available as we go. We're not sure yet, but at the moment, that's 3 scholarships that are, I wouldn't say up for grabs, but that you can apply for in profit low cost program. So that's a great opportunity. But the tips are apply lots and apply early. Make sure you just don't miss deadlines. It's devastating. Chances of being able to fundraise for fee debt in your masters is as small as it is LLB fee debt. So yeah, just try and do it all up front as far as possible. But again, email lawcares@UCT if you're looking for info. But I think that's it from us. Are there any last questions for anyone online? Anyone in the room?
Are you able to extend the degree to 2 years? Is it strictly a year?
Other
For master program?
the master's program.
Yeah.
You do have a 2.
You can do the human rights program for 2 years. Yeah, so
That's-
one course, a semester, 2 years. But then you must register for minor dissertation with 1 year. That's the only. Yeah. When you say register for minor dissertation, is that a separate process to the coursework?
So it's a separate
Separate course.
ticket, essentially. So there's like, you would register for each of your courses, and then the minor dissertation is its own thing that you register for, but it's one process on a very complicated online system.
It'll come up on Thinkorswim in your cart. It'll be an option. Minor dissertation. And this is obviously if you do get accepted, then you register.
Yeah, you get an offer, essentially, yeah, from the faculty office. And the sooner you submit that, your paperwork, the sooner you get the offer. We are reviewing applications on a rolling basis.
There's a last question online. Is there a specific link to follow to start the application process? You can either go via the School for Advanced Legal Studies website link, which is further up in the chat, or you can go to applyonline.uct.ac.za, and that will take you to the application platform. So if you go there, it's kind of step by step, although anyone who's tried it, it's not always, doesn't feel so straightforward, but that is the link, applyonline.uct.ac.za. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and I know the professors are hoping to see your applications.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone online.
Bye.
Sorry.